This is Fountain Pendulum. Thank you for watching. The subject before us today is my first and only pocket pen to date. And I have this very lovely rickshaw sleeve that the color matchings beautifully. So let's slip it out. This is a Visconti Viscontina. And the coloring is absolutely beautiful. You can see inscribed there is Viscontina, and it's a limited edition out of 388. And this material is celluloid. It's actually the red Arco Celluloid. And I'm going to turn it over and see if I can pick up on some of that. There we go. Some of its coloring, and you can see those Arco patterns as the light hits it, that it kind of goes through and back again. So this was a very fun and delightful find at the Pacific Northwest Pen Show from my kind of table neighbor there, Mike. And I am very, very fond of celluloid. I wasn't anticipating to have a Visconti, and some of the favorite pens I've ever acquired have been surprise pens, unplanned finds and purchases. So let's take a look at this. It is labeled as a mini, not necessarily a pocket pen, by Visconti, but it's definitely pocket sized. So with the pen capped, it's 4.5 inches. And uncapping the pen is 4 inches. And is it a size that you can write with at 4 inches just like this? I have, a medium-sized hand. I'd say, could you? Yes, but it's much more comfortable and usable when posted. And at its posted length, it's just shy of 5.5 inches. So that to me is a lot more comfortable. It has a rather small girth to it. Along the body, it's about 10 millimeters. And then at the thinnest point, where it tapers at the grip section, it's 8.5. So actually, small, but not too bad. So because of the design of the pen, I've actually found it very comfortable to write with, in that there's virtually no step. There is no step. And the threads are tremendously smooth. So I do find it a very comfortable pen to write with in that respect. And the nib, though it is a mini pen, is actually sizable for the considering the size of this pen. The nib is sizable in consideration of the actual size of the pen. So I think that's quite nice. It's 8 millimeters across and 20 in length. So that's very nice. Now we have some interesting details here. I've already mentioned the inscribing and the number. And then here on kind of the center band of the cap are 2 silver rings. And then the very traditional bridge arch there for the Visconti, also in silver. And these are solid silver, not silver plated. And you can see that they've begun to tarnish, which, let me know what your thought on that in the comments below. Should a pen like this be maintained and polished, or can you see beauty in the rusticness of the tarnished silver? Maybe you can tell which I prefer from what I've chosen to do with it so far. But anyway, this red or burgundy Arco Celluloid was created in the 1930s. So The celluloid itself is vintage. However, the pen was not manufactured or created until the early 2000s, circa 2007 or thereabouts. So, fairly new pen, but pretty cool to have a vintage celluloid with that. Now, the clip is spring loaded, and there's a lot of give to it. Interestingly, here you'll see that beneath the clip is flush. And then aesthetically, I find this rather unpleasing. I think it would have been nice if they had a little celluloid cap for that. But this is the screw that holds in the clip, because as I operate the clip, you can see the screw or the bolt going up and down, retracting in and out. So that's the outside of the pen. Let me give you a nice close-up of this lovely nib, because there's some pretty unique characteristics to it. So this is a medium, 14 karat, has a pretty traditional, beautiful Visconti engraving. You might notice that very uniquely as a heart-shaped breather hole, which I've not seen in other Viscontis. If you're aware of another Visconti that has a heart-shaped breather hole, let me know in the comments below. And I'd like to particularly zoom in on the nib grind, because I think it's very unique, and in my experience, my limited experience with Viscontis, this is quite traditional of a Visconti. You'll see that the nib grind is not square at all. In fact, it kind of has a similar shaping and profile to an architect, and that it sweeps up, but it's still not as sharp as an architect grind. You'll see there, still quite rounded off. That's a better profile view of it, of the roundness that is on the front there. There we go. So it's very interesting that it has those characteristics, and it gives it a very unique feeling. There's actually quite a bit of feedback to this particular grind, and I'm not sure if that's, I guess, traditional or if that's proprietary to the particular nibmeister that was working on this. Either way, it's enjoyable feedback. If you like smooth nibs, you may not find it particularly enjoyable, but I do. It's a very juicy nib. So this is a medium. It's quite wet. The nib is, I'd say, just normally soft. It's not it doesn't have flexibility. It'll give you a little bit more ink flow if you were to press on it. If you were to apply a little bit more pressure. Quite wet. Now, I'd like to show you the inside of this pen. Now, because of the way that it posts, it's best to pull it off gently, like this. Apparently the previous owner had a lot of scratches along this area from posting and then kind of twisting it as you were to unpost it. It's a natural thing to do, but it really took a toll on it. And it was able to be kind of refurbished and buffed out nicely, which I'm appreciative of. Now we unthread this section and we see a very unique filling system. So this is a built-in piston syringe press pool filling system. And it says here, you'll see press to empty, and it has an arrow going toward the left, and then separated pull to fill and an arrow going toward the right. And then beautifully, I don't know if you can pick up on this, but the little piston knob here is in the same matching red Arco Celluloid, which I think is a very beautiful detail. So this is clearly an in-house made filling system, and I think that that is absolutely lovely. Very nice feature, nicely done. And Mike advised me that when I'm filling and emptying and servicing or cleaning or this fountain pen with this filling mechanism, to hold it firmly here where the ink reservoir is and not at the grip section when I'm operating this piston. And I think that's because this piston has quite a bit of resistance to it, and that this has separated here at the joint in the past and had to be refurbished. So by holding it here and operating the piston, you're not putting that wear and tear or friction on that joint. So that was a nice advisory tidbit, and I've been doing that, and I'm glad to know that detail. The threads operate very smoothly in taking this section off, as well as capping. There's a little bit of resistance, especially on the threads that take this section off, and I'd say that the cap is remarkably smoother. So this has just been an absolute delight of a pen to find. I really enjoy writing with it. I would say the only thing that I would prefer is if it had a fine or an extra fine nib point to it. I would personally enjoy that more. I'm not a big fan of medium nibs. I find them, for my writing style, a bit large and marker-like. However, when I came across this pen with a little bit of consideration, I knew that I wanted to add it to my collection. And honestly, that's my favorite pens in my collection are pens like this. They're not ones that I research and decide I want to buy, but rather something that I come across that are unique that I haven't encountered before. So, also reverse writing is with light pressure tolerable, but a bit scratchy. And I'm actually wondering if I could get this refined by a nibmeister so that I can actually enjoy the reverse writing on it. However, when I've written with it at length on the reverse side, it does run out of ink, and you're starting to witness that yourself now on camera, now that I've gone down a bit. So that's something I would have to ask about, because on this side it's very wet. So I don't think they could increase the ink flow without making that ridiculously wet. But it's something to consider. It's possible that if the reverse side of there was smoothed, it might make better contacts with the paper, and then the ink flow might improve enough to the point where I can enjoy this on the reverse. Now, I was even thinking of doing a custom grind on the proper side, but I like the idea of maintaining the original grinds done by the manufacturers. I wanted to get a little bit closer. So there's the nib. So slightly architect style, if you know what I mean by that. Turn it over a bit. You can see there. And then forward. Quite rounded. And I'm going to try to show you the interesting texture that's on this, in the sense of it's almost geometrically shaped, this grind, instead of smooth. I could pick that up under the loop. I don't know how well you can see that. Maybe not very. But all I mean by that is that there are visible sides to the grind, that it's not very rounded at the transition points. It has a plastic feed, which I think is unfortunate, but as you can see on the paper, it has no trouble whatsoever keeping up. So that's my very fun and adorable find of late at the Pacific Northwest Pen Show. And I have a video on the Pacific Northwest Pen Show if you'd like to see that. Thank you for watching, and enjoy your fountain pens. It's all up to you now.